Guest here, Gordon Fellows, who's president of Mississippi Bankers Association. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Paul. It's good to be with you on a chilly morning, huh?
Good to be. And boy, it's just so nice. We appreciate the cooler air after a hot
No
summer.
doubt.
Don't get used to it.
I know. Well, Perez always reminds me about that. This is first of all, it is a proposal. Can you tell us the status of this, where it is? Is it working its way through the House?
Yes. So, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about it. The timing is pretty good. So this is part of the $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation package that the White House has proposed. And of course, what we're talking about is instituting a new financial reporting threshold where any bank account or brokerage account or crypto exchange or any type of financial instrument that has $600 or more in transactions in a calendar year. So it's not transactions; it's $600 aggregate over a year. The inflows and outflows would be reported to the IRS, and the logic behind that is that I guess the Biden administration and Treasury and IRS feel like a lot of people aren't paying all that they owe, and so their goal is to gather more data on taxpayers so they can ensure taxpayers pay all that they owe, and that's in our mind that's not a bad goal. It's probably a pretty good goal, but this is a pretty massive overreach in trying to achieve that goal without a whole lot of really proven analysis that this is going to work, right? $600 is everybody, right? That's just about anybody that has any type of financial transaction. That's $50 a month going in and out of an account, and so it's massive. It creates potential privacy problems. It creates new cost for banks to comply with it. It's going to create new cost for tax prep folks. It'll make your taxes more expensive to get prepared. So there's a lot of downside to it, and it's not really clear what the upside is as far as what analysis is going into it. So that's the problem. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it says the Treasury Department is saying that they're making the change to cut down on tax evasions. Estimated it will generate $460 billion. So apparently they're thinking it's $460 billion of tax cheats out there. And it very well may be. But I'm still a little confused because you're not talking about individual transactions of 600 or more. You're saying as the aggregate from a calendar year or fiscal year, government fiscal year. How does that work?
It'd be an aggregate on. Go ahead.
No, go on.
Yeah. If you have $25 a month go into a bank account, or $25 a month come out of the bank account, then over the course of the year, I'm sorry, $25 a pay period or $50 a month. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Then there's going to be a report filed with the IRS on that. So it's not. Some people think it's $600 transactions. It's the aggregate amount of what goes in and out of the account over the year. It's very problematic.
Yeah. Why didn't they just say everybody? Because as you said, and accurately, this will encompass everyone. But I mean, even from the IRS, this is how do you handle this load from hundreds of millions, 300 million people in this country? Over, of course. How do you handle that?
That's a great question. Well, for banks, it's going to we don't just have this data collected, right? We're going to have to put new processes in place, institute new systems to collect it and report it, and that's going to cost money. From the IRS point of view, they already get tons and tons of data, right? Every W-2, every 1099, all sorts of data flows in and out of the IRS. This just adds a whole lot more data to what they already collect. I don't know how adding sort of this granular data is going to help them in collecting more. Maybe it will, but there's a lot of risk that comes along with it too, right? They're already one of the largest cyber risk factors in the country, right? They get hacked all the time. And so gathering all this, it frightens us to put all this in sort of one repository. So there's cost, there's risk, and you're right. The IRS thinks it'll be about $400 billion over 10 years, but the Congressional Budget Office thinks that they're way off in their calculation. The Congressional Budget Office hadn't come up with a number yet, so it's unclear how much this will generate. And process-wise, the timing that we're talking about this today is important because it was announced last night that the House Budget Committee in D.C. is going to meet tomorrow on a Saturday to have a markup on pulling together all the pieces of the reconciliation package. And we think this will probably get to the floor next week in D.C. in the House. So we don't know if this is going to be in there. It was not in the bill that came out of Ways and Means, although it was proposed to be in the bill before Ways and Means reported it. And of course, in the Budget Committee's got to pull it all together, and get it to the Rules Committee, and then get it to the floor. It wasn't in the Ways and Means bill, but after the Democrats that run the committee, Chairman Neal, refused to put it in the bill, the White House and the Treasury started lobbying him really hard to get it added. And we'll see. It's certainly still on the menu. And it's important for any American that thinks this is an invasion of privacy to chime in with their congressman and tell them we don't need this because the timing is pretty urgent, I think.
Gordon, does it have any support as far as the Republicans are concerned in the House that you know of, or is it strictly
I don't think it does.
Partisan bill? Okay.
I think it. The whole reconciliation process. Go ahead.
Here are some of the excerpts in an article from July of this year. The IRS Criminal Investigation Division, that's the it's called the IRS CI, regularly violated taxpayers' rights and skirted or ignored due process requirements when investigating taxpayers for allegedly violating the $10,000 currently transaction reporting requirement. They found that only 8% of the investigations uncovered violations of tax law. Only 8%. And that was at the 10,000 level. In many cases, the Criminal Investigation Unit had not considered reasonable explanations from those investigated violating the Eighth Amendment of the Constitution. 92% of the cases. Interviews were conducted after the seizure of the interview's property. Oftentimes, at the same day, your bank account was frozen, your property was seized. And this is important as judges did not receive any information from the interviews before making their probable cause determination. I guess the same powers exist there to do it on an investigation on the $600 level, commensurate with the $10,000 level, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I think so. Part of the challenge with this is we've only seen a White House proposal. We haven't actually seen legislative text yet, right? So we think it's going to show up in the House next week, but nobody's shown us any language. So it certainly could, right? It certainly could. It could fall under those same lines, but it may not because that $10,000 threshold is that currency transaction report is a law enforcement tool. This may only be an IRS audit tool, so we don't know for sure, but it certainly could.
Do you have any?
But there are a lot of questions about this.
Yeah. Do you have any questions as the president of the Bankers Association? We're talking to Gordon Fellows. Gordon, do you have any information how much it's going to cost, like the average bank in the state of Mississippi?
No, we don't yet. So banks run all their technology through certain core platforms, right? And the cores are going to have to update their systems to comply with this, and that's going to cost banks money. But the cores, like I said, we don't actually have legislative text yet. So the cores can't even anticipate yet what the costs are going to be because we don't really know the specifics of how this is going to work. We just know that there's an idea out there. When the White House issues a proposal, it's somewhere between a think tank kind of paper and political talking points. And so it doesn't have a whole lot of specificity to it yet. So all that is to be determined if this moves forward, but there's certainly going to be cost, and that's ultimately going to harm the consumer.
And let's remember now, it's got to go through the Senate, too, so it's a long way from actually happening, but at least we wanted to make sure you folks knew exactly what was going on. Did we ever figure out the arbitrary $600? I mean, I could see them moving it down from $10,000 to $7,500 or $5,000, but $10,000 to $600 seems to be a little seismic shift. So,
and again, those are sort of two different. They're parallel, but they're two different goals the IRS is trying to achieve with this. And even if they raise the $600 to $10,000, it's still going to be problematic in this case.
Yeah. Hold on, I got a couple of other questions. I want to talk to you about medical marijuana because there's some movement